Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of One Motor Brothers. And today we're back after a long hiatus. And I'm also excited to announce we're also going to have a podcast, and it's going to be available wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Akshay, and this is my brother Govind, and today we'll be talking about the most anticipated electric trucks coming out very soon.
Not only that, we're going to be discussing which trucks are our favorite and also what we think will be the most successful. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So first off, we're going to be starting with the Tesla Cybertruck. And Akshay, I know you're a very big fan of this truck, and especially its design, which was very controversial last year.
Yeah, I like the design because it was unique, and there's not much stuff that looks like it. And usually all these other cars, they all look the same. They have like different grills, different lights, but they're pretty much all the same. So that's why I think the design on the Cybertruck is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Cybertruck has one of the more innovative designs of the 6 trucks we're going to be talking about today. But the major advantage of this design is that it's very low cost. So since it's like basically a modular design, you can basically build it like Legos. So it's very cheap, but also very like controversial, and like it makes a statement. It looks like the future, right?
Wait, so you think other Teslas will start looking like the Cybertruck?
Yeah, definitely, because I think this is a really good advantage and really smart of Elon Musk, because this type of platform allows for a much cheaper production cost and allows for Tesla to maximize their production while also still making like desirable cars. But it does lead to some controversial aspect into its design. So the audience will be split on it, but the major advantage is that price.
Yeah.
So discussing price, the Cybertruck is actually one of the most affordable in this
full-size pickup truck.
Yeah, it's going to be starting at around 39,000, which is very competitive with even like gas pickup trucks, which tend to be cheaper than all these electric pickup trucks. And that's especially surprising because you would think of Tesla as like a really premium brand, right? So
yeah, people think of them as like Mercedes, BMW.
Yeah. So this truck is a really big deal for Tesla. Even though it was unveiled like last year in 2019, it's still something that's widely discussed, and it's really was a hot topic for 2019. So I think it's going to be a really good truck. And it's one of the more successful trucks in the list, I think, because, Tesla, they have the, most innovative technology right out of the gate, and they're still ahead in like range performance and stuff. So
yeah. So how much range does this get?
Range estimates are really good. So the base model is estimated to be around 300 miles of range, while the maximum performance model will have around 500, which is really impressive.
That's really good for electric trucks.
Yeah, so Tesla continues to be ahead of the game in like range performance, and I'm really wondering when like other manufacturers will be able to catch up. But I think there are some competitors in here that will give Tesla a run for its money.
So what is the towing on this truck? Because that's pretty important for pickup trucks, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad that you asked. It's actually around like 12,000 pounds, really competitive with like the F-150 of today.
Yeah, since it's electric, it can tow like better than gasoline because it has more torque.
Yeah, exactly. Akshay's right. Electric trucks, a big advantage with them is that you get full torque at 0 RPM. That means you have more pulling power at like instant. So that way it's like really easy to like pull stuff.
So how fast is this?
This is another big deal. Tesla, as you know, is like one of the more performance brands. Like, their Model S can go up to 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds, which is insane for a sedan. And their upcoming Roadster will be a 1.9 second 0 to 60 car. And Tesla's Cybertruck doesn't disappoint in that aspect. The base model will be around like 6 seconds 0 to 60, which is like really impressive for such a heavy truck. But the performance model is the real news. It goes about as fast as a Porsche 911, 2.9 seconds 0 to 60 in a like 5-seat pickup truck.
Yeah, and it's got like a big pickup bed. So what are the advantages of getting a electric truck over a gasoline truck?
So definitely, electric trucks are gonna be the future because right now with like all the global warming and stuff, I think electric trucks is definitely the move, and many distinguished players such as Ford, and we're gonna be discussing that later, is gonna be moving in the electric pickup truck segment. And people seem to be pretty positive towards the Cybertruck actually, since you know the pickup truck target market is traditionally like more leaning against gasoline trucks.
Yeah.
There is still a lot of support for the Cybertruck, and there's a lot of hype for it. Speaking of hype, we expect the Cybertruck to release around spring 2021, but this is a very tentative release
Yeah,
date.
because Tesla always delays their
Yeah.
vehicles, and you never know when it's really gonna come out.
Yeah, and the thing is, there has been recent news about Tesla changing its design because it does not meet pedestrian safety standards, meaning that it can be dangerous for pedestrians because it's a very blocky and like, you know, like squarish design.
Yeah, and it doesn't have those side mirrors too,
Yeah,
so that's
that can lead to like really large changes, and that can harm production costs, and it would probably make the Cybertruck much more expensive, and also delay the you know, production time. So that's gonna be like pretty bad news for Tesla if they can't like really you know, change the design.
So what are the other cons of this Cybertruck?
So yeah, definitely uncertain release. That's one of the major factors. Tesla, even though it has that big brand name and like it's like a household name, it's like, you know, like on the same level of like Mercedes,
Yeah, because they're a
BMW.
new car company. I think that's why their
Yeah,
build quality is not
they
as
don't,
good.
yeah, they simply don't have the capability to like produce as much as like Mercedes, Ford, or Ram, or something else, like more established players in the segment. And this can lead to build quality concerns, as we've seen. We're gonna see uneven panel gaps, like inconsistent surfacing and all that stuff.
So what charging system does this car use?
I'm really glad you asked because Tesla has some of the best charging networks in the world. Like, the supercharger network is one of the fastest growing, and I seriously think all other electric companies should adopt the Tesla supercharger network. A lot of other YouTubers discussed this. Like, they have the fastest growing networks, and they have like the most established group of networks. And while other competitors, this is a major weak point.
Yeah, I think everyone should have like a universal charging standard for electric vehicles.
And I think this is largely due in part to that Tesla is a newer company, right? And older companies such as Ford and stuff.
Yeah, they have like pride that they don't want to give up.
They have that pride, and they don't want to sacrifice that pride and like give their car to another company. That's just like, you know, not like very good in their eyes. But I think it's not worth to like think about pride and stuff in this time, especially with global warming and everything.
Yeah.
I think we have to embrace like these superchargers, and that's like the only
Yeah,
way.
we want to make it as common as a gas station.
Yeah,
right?
I think a way to help like both sides like be happy is to have Tesla like debrand their superchargers, because, or at least like, and ask for a commission or something, because if they debrand their superchargers, then like, you know, more companies will be like willing to like go with it. And Tesla already has a very established brand name. It's like kind of like the Apple of cars.
Yeah.
So it's basically like, they're not gonna lose out much if the superchargers doesn't have like, you know, supercharger name.
So how well do you think this truck is gonna do?
I think it's gonna be a fantastic truck as long as Tesla will have like a similar design, because this design is really, it's like a like breaking point. Even though it's a very controversial design, it's a very smart business move by Tesla because of its really good structure and everything. So as long as it can keep that modular and like simple design, I think it's gonna be a really great competitor, especially with the big following that Tesla has.
Okay, so let's move on to the next truck.
So the next truck is one of my favorite trucks on the list, and this is known as the Rivian R1T. I don't know if you heard about this truck. They promised it around 2018. but we still don't see it yet. But we're expecting it to come around the same time as the Cybertruck.
Yeah, I think it was delayed because of the pandemic.
Yeah, pandemic was definitely a problem for all of these trucks here. So, but I'm really excited for this truck as I really like the looks of it.
Yeah.
It's a really great looking truck and it looks very high end.
Yeah, but this isn't as unique looking as the Cybertruck. It looks like more like a traditional truck.
Yeah, this is definitely a more traditional truck, and I think people would definitely like that because it's still a modular.
Yeah, some people like this
Yeah.
more than that design.
Yeah, it's still a modular platform, and that they use something called a skateboard platform, and it's under. They have two vehicles right now: the SUV and the truck. So the SUV and the truck, this will actually lower production costs, and this is a very big advantage because if the if both trucks have like a modular platform, it just lowers production costs, and that's very useful, especially for like a newer company for like Rivian. Even though it's like around 10 years old, it still needs that money.
So what are the price and the tax incentives and things like that?
So the Rivian is going to be starting at around 70K plus. There's going to be three trim levels, and there's going to be like the base model, the range maximized version, like the best range, and then the performance.
Will there be any tax incentives for this truck?
Tax incentives are uncertain for this. So if there are tax incentives, max you can expect is $7,000, which
That's
is
still a lot.
yeah, $7,000 is 10% of the price about.
Yeah.
So that's a really great deal.
So what is the range on this?
A range is actually, as I was saying before, some of these companies might be able to compete with Tesla, and I think Rivian is one of them. Similar to Tesla, it's like 200 to like 500, so that's really impressive. And I think this truck is gonna be really well, but the only like lacking factor I think is the price, and it's sort of unknown in that it's like a startup company, so I'm sure that some people will have like a hard time justifying this over a Cybertruck. But there still has been a strong amount of orders, and not only that, they have backing from Ford and Amazon, so that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, so I would wait and see how this truck does before I buy it. If I
Yeah,
were to buy it.
definitely. You would definitely want to wait and see what it does, because this competes not against like the full-size trucks like F-150 and all that stuff. This is a Tacoma competitor type thing.
So it's a mid-size.
Yeah,
truck.
it's a mid-size truck. So that's why that price is really steep, and it's like more like the Range Rover. So this looks like a very upscale vehicle. It looks really nice. And not only that, it has like it has like full-size truck like performance in like a mid-size truck. So like the fastest model will have like a 3-second 0 to 60 time, and like the towing performance is about like 11,000 to 12,000 pounds.
So is that better than the Cybertruck or worse?
It's about the same. So that's really good, because like the Tacoma tows about like 8,000 pounds. So that's like a 4,000 pound gig, and that's pretty big deal.
Yeah, but is it worth the extra like 40,
Yeah,
50K?
so that's the decision like prospective customers are gonna have to make. And overall, I think this is like one of my favorite trucks.
It's a Rivian, so it's a startup brand. So what charging system does it use?
Yeah, again, this is one of the weak points. They're gonna be using like the Electrify America charging points, much like the other trucks on this
That's
list.
owned by Volkswagen, right?
Yeah, so this is not gonna be as successful, I think, compared to the superchargers, and that's gonna be one of the deterrents from buying this truck against a Cybertruck.
Okay, so what is the next truck on our list?
So the next truck is the F-150 electric, America's favorite truck, the F-150. Everyone knows it, and it's the best-selling truck in America.
So this truck didn't come out yet. Do we know it's gonna come out for sure? It's confirmed.
Yeah, so Ford has prototypes, and Ford, they're like an established company. They've been there for
they're gonna make a good product.
They're gonna make a good product, and the new F-150 especially is like a really good truck. It has the latest tech and everything, a really good design.
They're really well built, and you can trust in this company.
Yeah,
since
this is
they're-
a company you can actually trust in. I think more than Tesla, in my opinion, because you know they have the building capability and all that. This truck is going to be coming out later. It's going to be coming out in around 2023, so it's not really affected by the pandemic and stuff. So, pricing and specs. So pricing, it might be in the high end actually. They're saying starting around 70K, similar to the Rivian R1T. So it can go from 70K to all the way up to 100K according to a car and driver estimates. So this can be somewhat of a deterrent because the Cybertruck is still the cheapest of all the trucks that we discussed.
Yeah.
And Tesla, I think some people like Tesla more than
Yeah,
Ford.
no, a lot of people because Tesla has like a more
Upscale.
yeah, it's more of a luxury brand than Ford.
And I think if Ford comes too late to the party, like, you know, coming 2023, that's really late. And all the other trucks are, like we're discussing, are coming around like 2021-ish. If it comes with like lackluster features and like range, it's not gonna be like a very successful and like performing.
So do we know
truck.
the exact specs, or do we just know?
The specs we don't know really. So we're estimating like around like a 3-second 0 to 60 for like the performance models. That's likely going to be the most expensive one, the limited. But we're expecting like a 5 to 3 second 0 to 60. Very impressive for
Yeah,
a
it's
pickup
not
truck.
bad for like So how well do you think this truck is gonna do?
I think really well, as long as Ford has like really good range. Like if they're coming out in 2023, I'd expect 400 to 500 mile range is really what it needs to be successful.
So what are the cons of this truck?
So the cons is that it might come later to Rivian. Although Ford is funding Rivian and using Rivian technology, it's gonna come after. And I think this is not as compelling of a truck as Rivian because it's likely just gonna look like an F-150, just like a very regular kind of like looking
but
truck.
this is a full-size pickup truck, and the Rivian is mid-size. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
something to keep in
yeah,
mind.
that's a major factor. I think this is definitely gonna have one of the best like towing performance because Ford F-150 like always like is like one of the best whenever it comes out with the new model. So there might still also be charging limitations. Ford is adamant in not using like, you know, supercharger and all that. So that's one of those things about like the F-150. I think all of the electric trucks should just go with Tesla supercharger, and like Elon Musk should just make everything like adaptable to every electric car. And
is there some adapters for these electric trucks?
As far as I know, like you still can't charge like most electric vehicles at the supercharger, even though Elon Musk said like he's open to doing it. So I think it's not really gonna work out as for now, but I think especially like during 2021, I'm sure we can see like some changes in automakers like decisions in terms of supercharger.
So is this also using Electrify Americas?
I'm pretty sure they're also going to be using Electrify America. So moving on to the next truck, this truck was actually released recently, the GMC Hummer.
Oh.
And this was one of the most hyped trucks, and it actually like sold out in terms of like their pre-orders.
An electric Hummer is kind of ironic because people think of Hummer as like a gas guzzler, blah blah blah.
Yeah, the thing is, like, Hummer actually died because of their MPG, which is kind of funny. So, this truck was actually one of the most hyped trucks. If you know Doug DeMuro, you know him, right?
Yeah.
He actually liked this truck, and he said that this might be like the most successful of like the three, like Rivian, Tesla, and Hummer. He said the Hummer might be the most successful of the three.
Yeah, but mostly because because people love this brand and it's got some
GM, you know, GM is also similar to Ford. Like they're an established brand. They know what they're doing. Compared to Tesla, you know, Tesla is like much like younger brand.
Yeah.
And GMC is like, you know, they've been there, they're established. But the interesting thing is that they're not actually really focusing on the GMC part. They're really hammering the part that it's a Hummer.
Oh, so this is a GMC. Like the Hummer is just a model.
Yeah, the Hummer is just a model. So, but they made you think like it's not a GMC at all.
Yeah.
It's just like a Hummer.
I thought it was a Hummer up until now.
Yeah, so it's actually a GMC Hummer. So if you look in the pictures, there's actually a really small badge saying like GMC. Like I think it only appears in two like places. So GMC is not like a big focus. They're just really focusing on that Hummer aspect. And I think that reflects in the price too. This is one of the priciest vehicles on the list. And I think that's a major con. It's going to be up to, for the base model, it's going to be 70K, but the like maxed out model is $112,000.
God, that's extremely expensive. I thought the Ford was expensive.
Yeah, so this truck is really expensive, and honestly, I don't really like it as much as the other trucks in this list because of the price. I think Hummer would have been much smarter to like price it somewhat lower in the pricing segment. I think I would have been fine with like 60 to 90K would be enough, like a very respectable price, and I think it would be gain a lot more sales traction and like customers. Although like the pre-orders have been filled, I think it's gonna be a niche truck. It's gonna be mainly for like richer people, like wealthier people who are able to afford like this $112,000 truck. And it's not really gonna be like really used for its truck capabilities.
Yeah, it's not gonna be used off-road or anything like that.
But the interesting thing is that a Hummer actually is a really good off-roader. Like they have all these really cool technologies. If you saw the Hummer release,
Yeah, it can crab, right?
Yeah, so both the Rivian R1T and the Rivian not the Rivian R1T, the Rivian R1T and the Hummer EV both have really cool off-road features. So the Rivian R1T has something called tank turn, so it can like turn like a tank, which is I find really cool because
So it has like a really small turning circle.
yeah, so that really helps in like tight parking spaces. So if you live in New York, it's really easy to maneuver around.
Yeah.
And the Hummer has something similar. It has four-wheel steering, so you have something called crabbing, like you said before. So this will like have like really good maneuverability in terms of that.
So will they be making an SUV version of this, like the Rivian?
So yeah, they will be making an SUV version. There's actually we saw like an image of the SUV, and I think it looks much better than the truck. I always felt the truck looked kind of awkward because of the back.
Yeah, I didn't like the bed part of it.
Yeah, the back of it looked kind of awkward, but the SUV looks really nice. I think it's like really upscale and looks much more like a Hummer in my opinion, at least. So I really like the SUV, but it's definitely gonna be expensive.
Yeah, I liked the front of the truck because it looked like an actual Hummer, not like some electric car.
Yeah, I think that like Hummer EV has a lot of character. I think that's why people like it. Nowadays, people really like the retro designs, most notably like the Bronco. The Bronco is one of my favorite trucks. I don't know about you. What do you think?
I like it.
Yeah, so the Bronco, everyone really likes that design, and it was a really unexpected design by Ford. And I think GM really saw that, and that's why they made their Hummer EV look like this, like a much more retro
Yeah,
feel.
because usually when you see an EV, you can tell by the design, but this looks like an actual gasoline truck.
Yeah, this looks like a gasoline truck. You won't really be able to tell that's like it's an EV. It looks very like traditional, but also like in a cool way. It looks like a Hummer. It looks really expensive and all that. And it has a really nice interior and everything. It has really good quality materials for the price, but I still think it's still an expensive price, and that's the major con coming out of everything.
Okay, so let's go on to the next truck.
The next truck is the Bollinger B2. So this truck is much different from the other trucks in that it's a very basic truck. It's like a more commercialized, like you basically, it's like a Defender basically.
If it's basic, it's probably cheaper, right?
Actually, you'd be wrong about that. Bollinger, I think, so they have something called the B1, and that's their SUV. So that's gonna be costing around the same price as the top model for the Hummer EV, $112,000. So if you're expecting that, so The B2 will be really expensive. I think 100K plus easily.
Oh, so what are the advantages of this?
Actually, of these trucks, I think the Bollinger might be the least successful. Although I really like this truck. It's like a back to basics like Defender style truck.
Yeah, looking at the picture, I thought it would be like less than all the other competitors, and it would do pretty well. But the price kind of.
Yeah, the price is kind of like the deterrent of the thing, because I think Bollinger can be much more successful if they charge this at 30 to 50K. I would definitely like buy it at that price. But like the thing is, it also has like that modular platform. It shares the platform with the B1, so they already have low production costs. So overall, it has that like really high price, but it is offset by its really like retro looks, and it really looks great in my opinion. So I think it's really gonna be a good truck as long as they can like somehow lower the price. I think Bollinger has a lot of demand, but it's like really offset by the demand.
Yeah, some people like
other
this
trucks.
back to basics retro, but the price is just really high.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at a Bollinger, the better option is to get like an old Defender and then restore it to like have like an electric platform. There's plenty of conversion companies doing that nowadays, so I think that's like a better option.
Yeah, but they'll probably cost as much as
they'll cost as much, but like the thing is, it's like a classic car, and you can like sell it later for like a profit.
Yeah,
this will probably be like a depreciating thing, but not only that, there's Bollinger is like relatively secretive. We last heard about it from like 2016, I think. And we never really heard from them again.
Do we even know if this is actually going to come out?
Yeah, so that's going to be one of the problems. We don't really know if it's even going to come out. So because they have like a lack of a test prototype, so we don't really know what they're doing right now.
So what is the range on this estimated range?
Estimated range is actually weaker than the other trucks. It's 200 like miles, only 200. So by the time this comes, I'm expecting around 2022. It's not going to be as competitive, especially with the price.
Personally, I'm not a big fan of this truck, mostly because the price is so high, but the range is like lower than the competitors that cost less than half.
Honestly, I really like this truck because when I first saw it, I was like, wow, this design is amazing, but I immediately assumed it was like 30K or 40K. And I was like, this is an amazing deal. This is like one of the nicest trucks. But like 100 plus, it's like very
not worth it.
Yeah. So overall, this is like a really nice truck, but it's offset by the fact that its price is too high, and every other truck we discussed before, I think, is a much better option. Moving on to the next truck, it's the Lordstown Endurance. So this truck is a relatively new truck, and it's actually backed by GM.
Personally, I don't like how this truck looks, but that's just me. What do you think?
I actually like how this truck looks. I think it looks really different, but it's also like focusing more towards a traditional design. I think in terms of like the spectrum, like Rivian is the most traditional. Lordstown is like in the middle, and the Cybertruck is like the crazy like truck overall.
Yeah. So what is the range and price on this?
Range is about 250 miles, which is pretty good as long as
average.
Yeah, as long as it can come out by 2021. And the price is really good actually. It's $52,000, which is really good, and it's like competes mainly with like gasoline trucks. Like you can get a decently loaded like F-150. So that's a really good price actually.
But isn't this a commercial use truck?
Actually you're right about that. So it is a commercial use truck. And the specs, in my opinion, aren't as like strong as they should be for a commercial truck.
Commercial use, $52,000 is like a lot.
Yeah, it's sort of like a luxury item. So if you're like having like a lot of money and you want to like spend it on some commercial truck, I think you should buy this. But the thing is, your commercial truck won't be able to tow as much because it only tows 7,000 pounds. For perspective, the Chevy Colorado tows like 7,000 pounds.
And how much does that cost?
Like 35K.
Okay.
So that's like one of the like major things with the Lordstown Endurance. I think it's gonna actually go down in price. This is like a startup company kind of, so it's like they need to start off with a
Yeah.
higher price. But I think you can definitely expect the Lordstown to come down in price, especially since they're focused on, commercial use. And I think.
Wait, can you buy this as a regular consumer though?
I'm pretty sure you can, and for as a regular consumer, this is a great truck in my opinion. It's like, it has like similar looks to the Rivian R1T. It's cheaper. It has great range. It has decent towing performance. So, overall, it's like a really great truck.
But this is also a very new company, so we don't know how the build quality.
Yeah,
and
build
stuff like
quality
that.
is we don't know, but they are proven in terms of the fact that they have truck technology in UPS trucks, and also they're backed by GM. So
Oh.
that's one of the two major pros, I think.
So is that it?
So let's just go over the cons and stuff. So like the pros is that it's a lower price compared to the competition. The only truck that competes here is like the Cybertruck, and that's like the base model. Um, it has a low cost of ownership due to its really simple design. I forgot to actually talk about this. So basically, what it has, since it's an electric truck, right? It has a like really small amount of moving parts. Like the only moving parts
It's
is
like the motors.
yeah, it's the motors. So it's gonna be a really reliable truck. So cost of ownership is gonna be actually very low. So if you're still worried about that $52,000 price tag, it is a very like low maintenance truck compared to gasoline trucks where you have to do oil changes, like engine maintenance and all that.
Oh yeah, I think that's why it can be more attractive to commercial buyers.
Yeah,
Because
actually,
there's less
if you go
maintenance.
to the Lordstown website, they compare a Lordstown truck with a F-150 Lariat, and according to them, you get like around $19,000 in savings, which is like overall, I think it's a really good truck, but it has relatively weak performance. You know, the electric segment is like one of those more exciting segments because like they go super fast and they
Yeah,
have
but
really
this
good top
isn't
speed.
about performance. This is a commercial truck.
Yeah, it's a commercial truck, but it is disappointing in the fact that it has an 80-mile-an-hour top speed.
80 miles an hour? Oh, I thought it would be higher than that.
But it is actually electronically limited, so I think you can take out the electronic limiter somehow. But like, I think that would void your warranty, of course. But
Yeah.
it's still limited performance. So overall, I think it's a pretty good truck, but it's definitely not what I would think is like my most favorite truck, but it's one of the more successful trucks on this list.
Yeah.
Rounding that out, we'd like to like pick our favorite trucks. So, Akshay, what is your favorite truck overall?
I like the Cybertruck mostly because of its price and design, and I like Tesla.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually a really big fan of the Rivian R1T. I always liked its like really great looks and all that stuff. And I'm also like a big fan of the Cybertruck. That's one of my favorite Teslas because of that innovative design. It was a really controversial design, you know, like
Yeah.
when last year when it was released, everyone went crazy. Like, you know, Twitter was exploding about Elon Musk making this design. But
Yeah, I thought it was a joke when it first came out.
yes, everyone thought it was a joke. They didn't even know what to make of it. So
Yeah.
I think it was a really daring move by Tesla. But overall, I think the Rivian R1T is like, even though it's more expensive, I just like the looks better. I
Yeah.
like the interior better. So overall, I think that's my favorite truck. So anyway, thanks for watching and thanks for listening. And please subscribe and like our channel. And also, if you're listening to this on podcast, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. Thanks
Thanks
for
for
watching.
watching.